Hello from Moscow. It's Sunday the 23rd of August. Last week I saw two very different queues in the Russian capital. In the southeast of the city I saw families queuing for candy floss. This was at a street festival to celebrate Russian Flag Day, an attempt to get Russians to rally around the flag and to boost patriotism. Now, cotton candy wasn't the only thing people here were picking up. There was lots of military hardware on show and lots of people taking an interest in it. The other kind of queue I saw in Moscow was for petrol, and these queues seem to get longer and longer each day. Muscovites have been spending hours waiting in line, waiting to fill up their cars. And it's not just Moscow that's been suffering from a petrol shortage. Many other parts of Russia have too, the result of continued Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian oil refineries. Russian newspapers have been writing about the fuel crisis. On Friday, Nezavisomaya Gazeta reported, due to the destruction of fuel and transport infrastructure, for the first time ever, Russia has begun importing petrol from India. Nevertheless, in many Russian regions, there is a shortage of motor fuel. Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak admitted that now the second stage of the so-called tense situation on the fuel market is indeed developing. Interesting use of words there. The Deputy Prime Minister doesn't call it a crisis. Instead, it's a tense situation. And he doesn't call it the second wave of a fuel crisis, as some Russian newspapers have been referring to it. Instead, it's the second stage. Does that make it sound more under control? The newspaper continues quoting Alexander Novak. We expect that in the near future, repairs will be completed at a number of oil refineries, and the situation will improve significantly, Novak said. However, whether it is possible to improve the work of enterprises that are in effect targets for Ukrainian drones and missiles is a big question. After all, many experts argue that it is almost impossible to create a reliable system of protection for thousands of enterprises, since the enemy can send more and more attacking weapons to target a facility. Friday's edition of Izvestia noted that for drivers searching for petrol, comparing prices and ration limits at different petrol stations and waiting in queues is increasing the level of aggression. As a result, petrol station staff are complaining of more and more cases of inappropriate behaviour by customers, fights and other incidents. The other day in St. Petersburg, one war of words at a petrol station ended in someone getting stabbed. Local media also reported fights at petrol stations in Volsky, Volgograd region, and in Rybnaya, near Ryazan. On Friday, the Russian government paper Rossiyskaya Gazeta reported that to ease the fuel shortage, sales of lower-grade petrol have begun. In other words, petrol of emissions classes Euro 4, Euro 3 and Euro 2, known in Russia as K2, K3 and K4. Previously, from 2016, nothing lower than Euro 5 was permitted for sale. It's a necessary measure until the 1st of July 2027. The loosening of requirements is connected to the reduction in petrol and diesel production due to unscheduled repairs at oil refineries after drone attacks. By introducing lower-grade fuel, it will be possible to saturate the market. But the paper warns that lower-grade petrol can have a bad effect on car components related to exhaust and also have negative consequences for the engine due to the higher risk of corrosion and carbon deposits. A day earlier, the government paper was proud to report that Russia is setting records for its oil shipments to India. In July, these increased by nearly 86% compared to last July. And yet the next day, we're told Russia is having to import petrol from India. It's clear that the Ukrainian drone attacks and the petrol shortage have not convinced Vladimir Putin to change course. On Thursday, Moskovsky Komsomolets reported him saying, "There are no critical consequences from such attacks. There have not been and there cannot be," although he conceded they are causing damage. How will Moscow react? Well, from the front page of Friday's Nezavisomaya Gazeta, we see that some officials here are calling for escalation. This is Sergei Glazyev. He's an economist, a former Kremlin economic advisor, known for his hardline views. He's currently the State Secretary of the Union State of Belarus and Russia. Referring to the leaders of Western countries, Glaziev writes, "The logic of this war is becoming more and more harsh. Either they will destroy Russia or we will crush them. And the later we do this, the greater our losses will be. Therefore, the enemy must be irreversibly punished for every crime committed against Russia. Russia should use weapons to neutralize the enemy's advantage in information technology and communication systems. This path may include cutting communication channels on the ground and at the bottom of the seas, disrupting the operation of data centers, destroying enemy reconnaissance and command aircraft," the academician believes. Part of Russia's strategy may be the disabling of communication satellites, including Starlink. Staying with Nezavisime, I'd like to show you this. This is last Thursday's editorial. It says it's about the Iran-American war. The Iran-US war that nobody needs has been going on half a year already. In the modern world, the price of rash state decisions is increasing. The war with Iran, no matter how it ends, is destined to remain in history as a bitter reminder of the long-term cost of decisions made by a politician who is out of touch with reality. As I say, this is about the US-Iran war. Finally, to the joke pages of Russian newspapers, and let's start with the latest edition of Anekdoty. We were talking earlier about petrol queues. Here's an observation about queuing. People become calmer when the queue behind them becomes longer than the queue in front of them. In the latest edition of Ё-моё, goodness me, some good advice. Can't afford new clothes? Then change jobs. At your new place of work, your old clothes will be like new. And this in Komsomolskaya Pravda. If you can see lots of different ways out of a difficult situation, don't rush to rejoice. Perhaps you're in a meat grinder. Not a particularly optimistic view of life, that one. So let's end with this. Again from Ё-моё. You'll never believe it. I got a car yesterday in exchange for my half-broken, awful-sounding grand piano. What idiot agreed to that swap? The guy next door. Well, I'm not going to swap my little piano for anything, so let's end with some music. I'm going to play for you a piece that's called Only Once in Life There Is a Meeting. It's a Russian song that was written in 1924. The music is by Boris Fomin. Thank you for watching. Very best wishes, and have a good week.